Okay, so we can
Okay.
get started.
All right. So yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and start. I can't
Yeah, go
go
ahead.
back to Zoom. All right. Yeah. So hi guys, my name is Advait. I'm an international master. So yeah, the way I've structured is going to be basically we're going to see a game every session, and then after the game, we're going to do some studies. So studies are basically puzzles, but they didn't come from like an actual game. They were constructed by someone basically created them. So they're usually harder, but they're a lot cooler too. Like the solutions are way prettier than normal puzzles. So I think someone raised their hands. I don't know how to check that right now. Like what I'm sharing, I can't see the chat. But okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go with the game. This game was pretty famous game. It's between two famous players. Short was white, and Timon was black. Short's like he played Kasparov in a world championship match, so he was really good player back in the day. Now he's still really strong, but not like top 10 in the world anymore. And Timon was also like top 10 in the world at one point, but he never played like a world championship match. So okay, Shore was white, e4, knight f6. So this is the Alekhine. Um, I'm pretty sure most of you know have seen the Alekhine before. It's not the best opening because we're not controlling the center with a pawn, so pretty provocative. But Timon was a good player, so he decided to go with it. E5, knight d5, t4, all normal, d6. Yeah, so here there's like a lot of ways to play. Either c4 is one way, like very aggressive c4, knight b6, f4. But in general, when you move your pawns up so far, there's a lot of holes in the back, and it's very risky. So there's a safer way to play, which is what Short did. He just played knight f3, getting his pieces out, makes sense, and g6. So yeah, there's basically two ways to play for black. You can either play with g6 and put the bishop on this square, or you can play e6 and put the bishop there. They both have drawbacks. E6, the problem with e6 is now this guy on c8, he's suddenly blocked in, right? He can't go anywhere, and we're stuck with the pretty bad bishop. White's center is just much larger, so whenever white is sort of expanded in the middle, he has his pawns more pushed out. Black wants some kind of way to attack it, and if he just plays slowly with c6 or e6, then it's not very good. I think c6 is also a move, preparing like bishop g4 next, and maybe then e6. But here black chose to play g6. So these are all basically ways to play the opening. They're not too important. A lot of good ways to play here. And bishop c4. Yeah, so knight on d5 is kind of unstable. We don't want to play c4 now because after like knight d6, black is going to play bishop g7, knight d7, and c5. And this pawn on c4, like it should be on c3 to defend our pawn chain. When it's too far, like let's say one day in the future, some stuff happens, castles, castles, and now suddenly c5, and we'll probably knight d7 first. And we're attacking the pawn. We don't want to take on d6 and then move to the center. So if white tries to keep his center, stuff like this is like destroying the pawn chain already. And white's advantage is basically keeping the pawn chain together. And if that doesn't work, then his advantage goes away. So we can't advance too far with our pawns. So bishop c4 is what he played. Knight b6 and bishop b3. Yeah, so notice the knight went from like all the way here to here. Knight's on the queen side now, it's far away from the king. That means this bishop, we have reporting towards this pawn on f7. It's kind of weak, like maybe gotta get rid of arrows. Maybe one day like there's knight g5 stuff coming, so black has to be kind of careful. Once he castles though, it should be fine. But he needs to do right away. So like already, if like knight c6, which is not a good move because we're not castling anytime soon. There's weird stuff like knight g5. Maybe it doesn't work here, but basically black should castle as soon as possible. So bishop g7 is best. Queen e2. Yeah, very important. So when you have like pawns this far forward, you have a space advantage, obviously. You want to keep pieces on the board. If you trade everything off, your space advantage kind of means nothing. It's like, If you live in a big house with a lot of people, then if you have a big house, there's a lot of room. It's fine. So like no one is gonna feel uncomfortable. No one is going to run into issues with not having enough room to sleep or anything. But if you have a small house with a lot of people, then people start bumping into each other. There's not enough room to like one guy wants to go to the bathroom while someone's already in there. A lot of issues, right? So one way to get rid of that is either make more space or just trade off pieces, right? If there's less people, then less people in a small house, then it's not really a problem because there's less people. So yeah, the whole point is that white played queen e2 is to avoid trading queens because now there's like this, and if you take with the knight, then black will trade it off. I know he gave away really good bishop on g7, but it's all to trade queens because when you trade queens, this pawn it became a strength. Well, it was a strength when queens were on because we used it to kind of cramp black's position. But now that queens are off, it's kind of a weakness. So black's development is pretty easy here, and the knights are pretty good. The bishop is on a good square. Black will castle, and he's doing pretty good. So white has two bishops, but it's not really a big deal because this guy, he's going to be blocked in after e6. So let's say like knight c3, castles, I don't know, h3. Yeah, so this guy is stuck defending the pawn. This guy is blocked by the pawn on e6. And these knights, they're not bad. So black will be doing fine here. Actually, I guess e6 will blunder g4, so we don't want to do that. Well, even just rook d8 is completely fine. The point is that with queens off, white's advantage is pretty much nothing. So that's why you play queen e2 to keep queens on the board. Knight c6, castles, and yeah. So black castles here. So it looks like white's center is kind of loose a little bit because there might be tricks like bishop g4. And if black could do this, he'd be doing really fine because, well, we're attacking the pawn indirectly because we're attacking the knight. So there's a pin here. So if white plays h3, there's like tricks like this, and suddenly white's just completely lost. We lose our entire center. Our pawns will get doubled like this, and then we're also going to lose our pawn in the middle, right? So we lost both of our pawns. Our king side is ruined. That's not what we want. But luckily, there's like a trick. Whenever there's no knight on f6, this bishop on g4 is undefended, right? So we're able to. I think someone said something in the chat. Ken, do you know how I can read the chat while I'm recording or screen sharing?
So the chat. Oh, you don't see the chat?
Okay, I see it now. I see it now.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the point. So bishop f7 is. Oh, you mean before queen e2? Okay, let's look at that. Yeah, so bishop f7 is. Sometimes it works, but in this scenario, it's not. It's too aggressive. Like, I'm assuming now knight g5 was your plan. So black can go like either king e8. If basically avoid f8 because now queen f3 is kind of bad because my queen comes to f7 if you move away, and if you do this, that's kind of embarrassing, right? You lose the queen now. g4 is probably good, but knight e6 is a little bit better, winning the queen. But the point is black will not go there. We'll go back to e8, and you can try queen f3 now, but now I have like rook f8, and I'm going to defend pretty easily, right? Yeah, maybe if you had your queen coming here somehow, it might work, but it's a little bit too risky right now. Yeah, so bishop g4, after bishop g4, now this does work because we have a discovered check. So takes, and now knight g5, and the queen will take the bishop next. And yeah, knight's coming here, we're up a pawn. Black is totally busted here. Yeah, it only works though when the knight is not an f6, right? If this knight were here somehow, then this trick wouldn't work because when we take knight g5, we can't take the bishop, right? Because the knight defends it. So this only works because the knight is far away from f6. Yeah, so bishop g4, not good right now. Castles, h3, because now bishop g4 is a threat. Like if we played this, bishop g4 is very, very good now because obviously black will take with the rook, and now knight g5 is not possible. So h3 is forced. Okay, yeah, now here black has some questions to answer, right? His bishop is kind of blocked in, attacking the center, but at least it's doing something for now. So can't change much about that. The knight on c6 is attacking the center, and that's kind of as good as it gets for the knight. He can't really go anywhere. This knight, he's kind of dominated by the bishop, so he can't go anywhere either. The other pieces black has to worry about are the queen, the bishop, and the rook. So first, the bishop, black has to ask, like, where's it going to go? He only has really two squares. He can go to d7 or f5. You don't want to go to e6 because your pawns get doubled, right? And there's always weird stuff like knight g5 in the future, queen g4, and this pawn becomes a huge weakness later. So really, it's between d7 and f5. If you go to f5 right away, then the bishop's always kind of vulnerable here because he can't go back this way, and if you ever shut off this diagonal, there's always g4 pawns, right? So if I play like rook d1, e6, suddenly g4. So the bishop is outside the pawn chain kind of, but there's just not enough squares for it to go to. So black is feeling kind of cramped here, right? And if you go to d7, there might be issues with e6, or even if not e6, you don't want to go there in general because the bishop blocks the queen, and all of black's pieces are just kind of cramped. They have no squares to go to. So here, black decided he needs to trade some pieces off, and he takes here, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes, and now, wait, what's it right here? Oh no, this first. So he inserts a5 first to, just because one day this b4 score might be good. So a5 threatens a4, so white plays a4, and now he does this, pawn takes pawn, knight d4. So like I said earlier about, if you live in a small house, it's easier to, like, you can solve the problem of no space with either getting a bigger house or having less people in the house. So that's what he's doing. He's trying to trade off pieces, and the more pieces he trades off, the less cramped it is for him, right? Yeah, he inserted a5 and a4 because, like, one day if white moves the c pawn too far, this b4 square becomes weak, right? So he could have done it without a5 and a4. It wasn't really a big deal, but he decided to insert it anyway. Okay, so knight d4 takes, queen takes, and now the bishop and the queen attack the pawns, so white has to defend it, rook e1. Okay, yeah, so again, black has to ask, what's he going to do with the bishop? The queen is kind of far, but we can't really attack it right now because if we move our bishop on c1, then, this pawn falls. I guess the clearest right away for white is to play like knight c3, knight b5, and try to kick the queen out. Or also knight d2, knight f3. Because the queen on d4 is kind of unstable, and white should try to kick the queen out. So in the game, black played e6, but this looks kind of bad, right? You're locking the bishop forever, and yeah, all of black's pieces, they look kind of bad because the knight on b6 is not doing anything. The bishop on c8 is locked in. The bishop on g7 is kind of blocked by our e5 pawn. So I guess the other option was for black to play either like bishop f5, but like I said earlier, this bishop is not stable here either because it's g4 one day. So like knight c3, we're threatening knight b5, and black can't even play c6 because now there's issues like this where we land the queen and the knight, and I think black already might lose material. He has to go all the way back. If he goes to b4, then knight e2, and yeah, the queen cannot defend the knight anymore. So there's so many issues for black regarding his pieces, where they're placed. Yeah, and if he allows knight b5, then his queen gets pushed back, and he has just no space. So like if he plays queen d7 or something to run away from knight b5, then we just go bishop f4, rook d1, and white's very, very happy because all his pieces are on good squares. Okay, yeah, so instead he played e6 and kind of accepted the fact that his position is just kind of bad. We'll have to defend for a while. And now white plays knight d2. So he could try knight c3 here, but black will play bishop d7, and he wants to trade pieces off. So if you play knight b5, we do get the bishop pair, but black traded off a really bad piece for a knight, right? You really don't want to make this trade because the bishop is kind of bad for the rest of the game. So if you make a trade with that bishop, you're going to lose on that trade. Yeah, so knight c3 didn't make much sense because yeah, you can't go anywhere now. If you go to e4, then this pawn's gonna fall because you're blocking the connection of the queen and the rook. Yeah, and if I go bishop e3, same thing, right? So white needs to kick the queen out the other way, knight d2, to come to f3, kicking the queen out. And whoops. Yeah, so now knight to d5. Yeah. So if bishop g7, then it looks normal, but white just continues knight to c3. Knight f3 is also fine. He wants to get the bishop here to like kind of put pressure on the diagonal and maybe trade off for the knight, but we're attacking the queen, and then finally we move out of the way so we can't trade off the knight. In this position, it's probably what black should have done because he at least has his pieces out, but it's still not that good for him because his pieces are kind of awkward. And whenever we want to attack like the king with this structure, whoops, he has weaknesses on the dark squares, right? Like f6, h6, they're really weak. So one day we want to play like queen d2 and bishop h6, and like if we trade these guys off, I don't know, I'll just make some moves to show that. King h8, bishop h6, takes. Yeah, so without the bishop on g7, like these squares are super weak. So the queen here is going to be very, very strong. We can try like a rook lift one day, or maybe like knight f3, knight g5. Yeah, but in general, if you trade off the bishops, it's very, very dangerous for black. That's the plan for white to take advantage of that. So that's what he should have done after knight d2. But he played knight d5. Yeah, knight d5 is bad because you're not getting your pieces out fast enough, and white's just going to keep getting his pieces out. Yeah, so now queen e4. So like I said earlier, white wants to trade these guys off. The plan is really, really simple. You're just going to play queen to e4, queen to h4, bishop h6, and yeah, so that is pretty much it. If you play like the Grand Prix attack in Sicilian, I think there's like a really similar plan with like queen d1 to e1 to h4, bishop h6, knight g5. This is pretty much the same thing. We just want to trade off the bishop and mate black. Yeah, so queen e4, strong move. His intentions are pretty clear. Queen b4. So yeah, black wants to trade. Not surprising because trading queens would mean he's never going to get mated. So white wants to avoid that. Bishop c4. Okay, so he blocked the trade in kind of a weird way. Like usually whenever if you don't want to trade queens, you don't want to like put a piece in the way because you're kind of like pinning yourself. It's not a real pin because if you move the bishop, you're not going to lose material, but you are going to trade queens. So it is a pin, but not really an annoying pin. So if he tried to move the queen to like back to e2, you just waste time. So that doesn't make much sense. And if you played knight d4, there might be tricks with like bishop d7 and then c5 and like bishop c6. So bishop c4 is probably the best way to go about it. White can also win the pawn here. Some of you might have seen like, why can't white win the pawn? White does win a pawn, and white probably is better here, but you're trading. So here, white is like basically two big advantages. One is he has much more space, which we've been talking about. Like black's pieces have less squares, and the other one is the dark squares are on the king, right? One day we want to play queen h4 and try to take advantage of that. And actually, I guess there's three. The third one is the bishop on c8 is very, very bad, right? When you take on d5, you're trading all those advantages for a material one. So now you are a pawn, and anything will be good for you now. But on the other hand, the queen never gets to h4 now. Like with this queen on b4 never leaving, we're never going to h4. So that's one. This pawn on e6 is gone, so this guy is free forever, right? Like bishop e6 here is very strong, and now black connects the rooks and he's very happy. And even an ending like this, black has two bishops, and it's very hard to win these positions where you're up a pawn, but black has two bishops, because stuff like rook d8, bishop e3, bishop c4, already like it's okay. Probably I should play b6 and defend this guy first, and then stuff like this. But white is better, but it's not a type of trade you want to make because here black has some freedom, right? He has something to look forward to. You want black to basically be miserable, right? His position is very, very bad here with the bishop locked in. This winning material is not worth it at all. So bishop c4 is what he played. So black has like a chance here to double white's pawns or force a queen trade. So black played knight b6. So like I said, it was kind of a pin with the bishop being in the way of the queens. It's not really a pin, but okay, I need to draw 0 properly. Yeah, so white can either move the bishop away, and then we trade queens, and white is better, but queens are off the board. It's not so bad for black, because now, without queens, it's harder to make use of the extra space. But white just played b3. So at first it looks really bad, right? Like knight takes c4, b takes c4. You have like doubled isolated pawns on the queen side, and you gave black the bishop pair. But the whole point was to avoid trading queens, and even though the pawn structure is really bad, the bishop has like some avenue on a3, and with this pawn on c4, you basically close down this line forever, right? So now queen to h4 is pretty much unstoppable, right? Now the queen comes to h4, and like this plan is gonna happen by force. Yeah, black could have played bishop d7, but I think here white would have continued like c3 and then went on with this plan, right? And now he gets to keep this bishop, and it's a pretty good piece anyway, so I don't think white's gonna be unhappy here anyway. So knight b6 was played, b3 takes, pawn takes, because trading queens again, I think this ending might even be bad for you because double pawns without the queens, like now you have no compensation, and b6, bishop a6 already wins the pawn, I think. So yeah, b takes c4 and rook e8. So yeah, here white had a threat with bishop to a3. So black had to address that with rook t8. He could have tried like queen to b6, but the queen is kind of b6 is not a good square for the queen because it doesn't really do much. At least on b4 we're attacking c4. So after queen to b6, something just like queen h4, and the queen is way too far to be helping out the king. So that's not what black really wants to do. B takes c4, rook e8. Yeah, rook d1. Actually, black could have tried rook d8. Actually, no, rook d8 is not good because now queen h4 is with tempo. So that's why I didn't play rook d8. Yeah, so rook e8 is forced, and now rook to d1 because we are controlling the open file. Black would have played bishop to d7. Like if we played queen h4 right away, bishop d7, and he has like some freedom in getting his pieces out, right? The bishop on c6 won't be so bad anymore, and if he trades off for the knight, again, like it's a good trade for him. So white wanted to stop that with rook to d1. And yeah, now black has to ask himself like what to do. So this opening was an Alekhine, all the way back on like move 1. It was e4, knight f6. So yeah, that's how the Alekhine goes. No pawns, just knight moves for the first couple of moves. Okay. My arrow is frozen. Okay, 1 second. Okay, there we go. So yeah, my arrow was frozen for a second, but it seems to be good. So rook to d1, queen to c5. Yeah, so it's not clear how black can like really develop his pieces. He would like to bring the bishop here, but again, how do you control that square? If he goes queen e7, then actually this just traps the queen, doesn't it? Okay, maybe c5, but c5 is hideous, and now like rook d6, and that is very, very bad for black. So yeah, black can't even control d7 properly. So he tries queen to c5. He might be going for queen c6, trading the queens, and then like bishop d7 when white avoids the trade. Or he might just be trying to just move some pieces around until white goes away with the queen. So queen to h4. Yeah, so white is starting the plan with bishop to h6. Black needs to keep getting his pieces out, but again, it's not so clear. So black has a chance to win a pawn here with bishop takes e5. But this is like insanely risky because now once you make the trade, okay, you won a pawn, but you're still left with 3 really bad pieces, and like this entire diagonal just screams for some kind of checkmate. So yeah, probably rook b1 and like bishop b2, and this looks very, very dangerous for black. Like we're down a pawn, but I don't think black is going to survive this. He can't get his pieces out, and the king is going to feel really, really scared. So yeah, that's probably not a good idea. Okay, yeah, b6. b6 is good. Wanting to get the bishop out this way. So yeah, okay, that's why I play queen c5, because if you go b6 right away, well, you can't, because the queen attacks the rook. So that's why, yeah, rook d1, queen c5, queen h4, b6. And, okay, so if black has bishop e7 in time, we're forced to move the knight away. And once we move the knight away, then e5 is kind of free, because then we can't make the trade. So we need to just think about that. Bishop t3 attacking the queen, queen c6. Yeah, so queen f8 was probably better because white's entire plan was surrounded with bishop h6, and it makes sense to stop bishop h6, right? I guess white could still continue like bishop g5 and then bishop f6, but you know, it's not as strong because the queen, whenever the bishops get traded off, like let's say somehow, I don't know, pretend, you know, black can't take it, right? I just want to make a point. So whenever we trade off the bishops, right, the queen kind of acts like a bishop now, attacking or controlling these squares. So with the queen here, black will never get mated. Obviously, he's still doing pretty bad because he can't move this guy. Like if he moves him right away, you know, there's stuff like this. And the rook on the 7th is very, very annoying. But he's not getting mated, so it's not terrible. Obviously, this doesn't work because we can just take, but I just wanted to make a point if we trade the bishops off. So okay, queen c6, not a fan of that move because now bishop h6 is still a possibility for white, which is what he played. Bishop h8, yeah, you don't want to take. Once you take, like this is, once it happens, game over. Black can try this, stopping this for now, because if you go here, this is embarrassing way to lose. Yeah, don't let that happen to you. But white can take some time. He can play like rook to d4, rook to h4, and if we move the queen, then this is a problem, right? You can take the rook, but then you'll get mated. So yeah, you can play kind of slowly, and like once you trade off the bishops, black can do pretty much nothing for the rest of the game. There's just too many ideas, like knight g5, rook d4, rook h4. So yeah, that would be pretty much game over. Bishop h8 is forced, and okay, so white's knight is not a bad piece, attacking the pawn. You know, knight g5 is possible. White's bishop is very strong, controlling all these squares, so black's king is kind of in a box for the rest of the game. This bishop on b7, if he can get to the long diagonal and like be fast enough, maybe one day could be a good piece, because if we can make the knight like be pinned to, you know, behind the checkmate for the rest of the game, maybe black can hold. But you know, it's kind of funny how the roles are reversed for the bishops. So before, the bishop on h8 was much better, but now he's kind of blocked in forever because he's like kind of forced to hide in the corner forever, so he doesn't get traded off. Meanwhile, the bishop on b7, like he has a nice open diagonal for now. So even though black's bishop on c8 is the bad bishop by definition, it's not like the bishop on h8 is not better at all because it's just completely shut in. So it is a close position, so the knight will be the best piece here, but you know, the bishop on b7 wouldn't be so bad. Okay, so bishop h8, rook to d8. So now white is finally gonna come in and start, you know, take advantage of the fact that black's king is shut in. So obviously if we take, it's kind of like a back rank mates because the bishop guards the only covered square, and yeah. So black can never take because he get mated. He can try two things. He can try he can try what he played in the game, bishop b7, or you can try bishop to d7. So again, if we trade off too many pieces, like if you trade off here, you're left with 4 versus 4, right? And here it might be possible for black to defend because a rook on a1 is kind of slow to get in the game. And we can't move him right away. Like rook d1, I think black might even be better after this, because this, I don't know if it's fast enough. Actually, here it probably is fast enough. Yeah, okay, it might be fast enough here. But black will probably take this way. And after knight g5. Okay, I'm not sure actually. Because like after knight g5, there's threats with like takes, rook d1, queen 6a4, knight g5. Maybe black could do this. Like we want to play queen a7 next, and the question is, where do we put the bishop? We can put him on g7 or f8. They're both sacrifices, but I think neither of them work, because like the bishop on g7 is a really good defender, because this, you'll never get mated with this guy alive, because he always controls h8. So, oh, knight h7? Okay, we can see that. So queen takes a4. Knight h7 where? Like after queen takes a4? So like in this position after bishop b5? Okay, I don't think it works here, because then I take. Actually, bishop f4 might be good instead of bishop f8, because bishop f8, then you're not mating me, right? Like I'll just, if you go here to threaten mate, well, it's not even mate because this guy defends. I can always just take him. But I think bishop f4 is strong. If we win this guy, then yeah, there's no way black is surviving this. Okay, yeah, that does win. That's correct. Okay, so maybe after knight 7 I don't take. I need to do something else. Probably I can. What can I do here? Looks very, very dangerous. Okay, yeah, that might be good. Yeah, that's probably the best idea. Knight 7 is strong. Maybe I try like queen takes c2. If you go rook d7, now I have like a weird back rank mate, because now the bishop on e5 like suddenly guards the. So what about bishop f8? Bishop f8 where? Okay, knight e7, queen c2. Yeah, so knight f6. Then I think I have this. Okay, we get here, and like, so g3 if you don't want to draw, because king g1, I'll just take a draw with queen d1. And I might have queen f8 here, and like this position, I think black is fine. Like the bishop rook should be able to hold. Okay, so someone's saying bishop f8. So bishop f8 where? Here? Here? Further back? Oh, bishop b5. Okay, bishop b5, bishop f8. Okay, so yeah, here. What if I go here? Queen h7, bishop here. Yeah, so like it's tough. With the bishop on g7, it's really tough to mate black. There's like a saying, if anyone plays the dragon, you know how in the dragon there's like h4, h5, take on g6, and you always get like queen h7 stuff, and like the king sits on f8, and because you never took the dragon bishop, like there's never a mate, right? Like the bishop on g7 is really good at protecting the king, so unless you can take him out, it's kind of impossible to mate black. Like it's true in the dragon, it's true here. It's, yeah, he's a really good defender. So, but the point is like it's really risky, right? Like black easily can come back in the game, and there's a lot of counter threats, right? So whenever you have a big advantage in chess, you want to give your opponent the least amount of play as possible. Like you want him to basically suffer. It's kind of, you know, like the animal boa constrictor, like it kind of squeezes its prey and slowly takes life out of it until it finally like suffocates to death. That's what white's doing here. He wants to just make sure like the life in black's position just keeps going away slowly and slowly until there's nothing left. Yeah, bishop on g7, king is in heaven. Yeah, that's true. So bishop g5 to f6. That could be an idea later. I think you mean after bishop h8, Because if you try that here, like bishop g5, bishop b7, when the bishop came to h6, when the bishop came to h6, black went to h8. When the bishop goes to f6, black will go to f8. So he's covering the squares a little bit better here. Okay, so here first, bishop h6, bishop h8, and now bishop g5. Yeah, so it might be possible. You have to worry about the queen coming in and trading off pieces. So like I can do this, and then I'll play queen e4. And if I trade queens off, I'm doing really, really good. Yeah, you can try a queen to h6. Can I live here though? Maybe I can't. I don't know. Maybe I can't live here because like knight g5 looks really annoying. Okay. Maybe it doesn't work, but at the very least, I have like bishop g5. At the very least, I can just go back and ask you, what are you gonna do? Because rook to d8 now is a lot less effective because now I'll just take it because bishop takes won't do anything. Yeah, and then if you go here, I'll go back here. So it might be a good try, but I think I can go back at the least. Okay, so yeah, bishop h8, rook to d8. Yeah, so anyway, bishop d7. The point was if white takes here, it's not that good. So the critical line is knight to d4. We're attacking the queen, and the queen has no good squares besides, well, no good squares to defend the bishop still. If he goes to c5 or b7, it's a free piece. So black has to sacrifice his queen. Takes. Okay, so black has a rook and a bishop for a queen, but white is probably much, much better here. But I don't know if he's winning because the bishop on h6, like suddenly not so good, right? Like the rook is on open file. I think a bishop f4, stuff like that would be terrible not to do that. I mean rook to d4. So rook to d4 and like threatening bishop takes e5, threatening rook takes c4. He's getting a lot of activity now, right? So the queen sack, I think white is better, but it's like not enough to win now because you traded off your knight and a rook, and black is probably defending here. The queen alone won't be enough to mate him. So I think black should have played bishop d7. It's a much better move because the queen sack, black has chances to hold. I guess the best idea would be to try bishop g5 now. And after the rook moves to d7, maybe now bishop f6. But like even this, okay, you don't want to take because then I'll take with the pawn. But bishop g7, let's say, and it's not so clear how white breaks through because like if we play rook to a3 or something, like what does it even do? The rook lift doesn't really help us, and yeah, black is doing okay. I think he might be able to hold. Okay, but I think he should have done that. Instead, he played bishop to b7, which makes sense because you're putting the bishop on its most active square, and you're threatening to take. But now white he has a grip on the open line for the rest of the game pretty much. So rook to d1. Okay, so black played bishop g7. So there's like if queen takes a4, we're taking advantage of the fact that the king it's like a back rank mate kind of, right? He can never ever go anywhere. Now queen t7 is game over. And yeah, if bishop c6, I think knight g5 ends the game, right? The queen is all the way over here and the bishop is in the way. Yeah, white has like a lot of winning moves. Pretty much everything wins at this point. Yeah, so there's no way for black to hold this. The pieces are way too far away. The rooks on the d5, they kind of like cut the board in half. Like there's two sections: the king side, which is just the rook on e8, the bishop here, and the king there, all versus white's pieces here, which is not a fair fight at all. So black needs the queen over there, but the queen is kind of stuck on the left-hand side forever, right? The rooks do a good job of like cutting the board in half. So yeah, bishop d7 was played. He's running out of ideas here because he can't even take. If he takes, then I think queen here is just unstoppable next, right? He can't take on d8. He can't really do anything. He might have to do this now, but I think at this point we'll just win. So yeah, black is in a really tough spot. Okay, enough with the highlights and the arrows. Yes, the bishop g7. He has no moves, right? He can't really do anything. He could try maybe queen c5. Yeah, I guess queen c5 makes sense. But I think this fails for like something like this. And if you go queen back, I'll play queen e7. If you go bishop here, well, something should win. Something out of the... Probably this at the least. And like 94. Actually, I don't know. Okay, maybe queen c5 is better, but I'm not sure exactly. I don't know, honestly. Yeah, maybe we can see later, but queen c5 looked like a good try. Anyway, bishop g7 was played. And yeah, so rook d7. Like I said earlier, if you make too many trades, then white's position is not going to be as good because it's easier to defend with 4 pieces than 5 pieces, right? If you can defend against 5, you can defend against 4. So, yeah. White keeps a pair of rooks to avoid the trade. So he has more attacking power. If you take and do something like this is good too. You're still much better, but again, black's job is every trade you make makes black's job a lot easier to defend. So yeah, rook d7 is probably the best move. So black had rook f8, which is a mistake because he completely doesn't see what white is about to do. After rook f8, he's in complete paralysis for the rest of the game. Like he can't do anything. He's just stuck moving the same piece over and over. So queen e4 was interesting because now you're trading off queens at the cost of the material. So you want to basically you're accepting the fact your position is really bad, and you're banking on the fact that white's pawns in the ending. You might lose like the pawn in c7 and be down a pawn, but you're banking on the fact that white's double pawns are really, really weak. So maybe one day you can play like I don't know, let's say first we'll start with this, takes. So white is up a pawn here, but his pawn structure is disgusting, right? Like all his pawns are isolated. Well, not b5 pawn, but there is a double they're isolated, right? So his pawn structure is really bad, but black might be able to defend. Yeah, he needs to try something drastic like this, because if he sits around doing nothing like what he did in the game, he just gets crushed slowly. So this is more active. I think white is still winning here, but it's a much better fight because the double pawns make things a little bit harder. So yeah. Instead, black kind of accepted his passive fate and just played rook f8. And now white has like a grip and it never lets go. So takes, rook to d4. So Jan Seaman sucks. He was like 2700. He beat Kasparov and Karpov, and he's one of the greatest players, so he wasn't that bad. In this game, he looked kind of bad because white's position was very, very strong. It's easy to look pretty bad based on one game. So okay, rook to d4, and my computer froze. Never mind. Yeah, queen f6 and rook h4 is one threat. There's a lot of threats here, and black never has rook to d8. He never has any way to trade pieces off. Yeah, this is pretty dire. So black can never go pawn grabbing. So yeah, there's actually a theme where you can sack the rook on d7, and it won't matter because like there's one example. Let's say black does nothing, rook to b8. I guess here doesn't work because we're too slow. I was gonna say knight g5 and like this and rook h4, but obviously it's kind of slow. So the game is very much in white's favor, but it's not completely over because this guy, we still need him for a little bit. So yeah, rook to d4, rook to 8. So yeah, queen takes a4. If you try this, I think like you're stepping off of the diagonal. He can't try king f1. We'll look at something similar in a second, but yeah. So first the queen takes a4. we're not worried about the fact we lost the pawn. We're worried about the fact that he's going to trade off the bishop for the knight. But the moment he steps up the diagonal, like our knight is unpinned. So here white just wins. Queen f6, king g8, knight g5. The threat is knight f7, or knight e6, and there's no way to stop it. You can go back queen c6, like with the mate, but now I'll play like f3, and you literally can't stop knight f7, which is going to be game over. So we can't even move the queen off. So like the queen is kind of stuck here because the moment she moves, we play queen f6, knight g5, and that's game over. So the queen can't move. The rooks have limited squares. The bishop can't move for the same reason the queen can't move, because then the mate threat is gone. So black is left with just moving the king, the pawns, and the rooks to like 3 different squares. So yeah, it's almost close to a zugzwang, but not quite. So rook a t8 makes sense. One day, the square might be important. Makes sense to just put everything around the king and pray for the best. Queen f6, king g8. Okay, so here we're gonna stop for like 5 minutes, and I want you guys to try to figure out what white can do. So obviously white's pieces are doing really, really good. The rooks are on their best squares. The queen is on a very good square. The knight is kind of a problem because we can't move him yet. And our pawns, well, we can't really use our pawns right now. So we'll take about 4 or 5 minutes here, try to come up with a plan, and I can answer questions in the chat if you guys have anything. So yeah, white to move. What can white do? So king f1, what's the idea behind king f1? You want to unpin the mate, right? Like, that makes sense. Okay, let's say king f1, let's say black passes. Let's say you can, right? King f1, black passes, and then you're gonna play knight g5. Oh, so what are you gonna play after king f1? Okay, so the rook c7, you're losing a rook though, right? Rook c7, queen c7, knight g5. The whole point of knight g5 is that the rook on d7 is going to take on f7, so that's why the queen is pinned. If we lose a rook on d7, then f7 is no longer attacked anymore, right? So knight f7 isn't a threat anymore. So like what I was saying is that right here, queen a4, like we need this rook on d7 to take here, right? If you sack that rook, we don't have that threat anymore. So like let's say, I don't know, rook to 8. And now if you try this, we can't take here anymore. So that's a problem with rook to c7. Okay, so rook h4. So rook h4 where? After queen f6? Rook h4 here? Wait, so rook here, and then rook h4? You don't want to sack the rook and then play rook h4. Like the two ideas, they don't connect, because if you're gonna sack the rook, you might as well sack the rook this way, because at least here you force black to waste a move taking the rook, right? And then maybe now you can try knight g5, but even this I think is too slow, because like queen e7 at the end, and like you trade queens and it ends up being nothing. There might even be like queen d1, and you also enter like h5, because after h5 there's nothing, right? Okay, you might have a draw, like queen e7, rook h7. Like you might have a draw like this. Check, check. So okay, black wants to win, probably h5 wins. Yeah, knight e7 is annoying too. Okay, but h5 I think just shuts everything down, right? You can't really, like, what are you doing against h5? You can try rook h5, hoping I'll take, and then queen h6, but I have this trick, queen d1, and then I take with the queen, and now I'm safe forever, right? Yeah, so black is, that's why the rook on d7 we kind of need it. Like, he kind of shuts down the position for everything, stopping on the counterplay. So g4 fails for a similar reason. g4, now you open up this guy, right? So now I have this, and yeah, Funny how white's king gets mated after all this. Okay, maybe not mated, but this is over, right? Trading queens up like 10 pieces, so that's not what you want either. Yeah, okay. The rook's in d7. You need more like firepower before you can sack the rook, right? You don't have enough going yet. If you had like some faster idea or work, but remember that black is completely paralyzed. As long as whatever you do isn't completely drastic, like sacking a rook, then what you do is you can't really do much about it. So h4, h5, h6, is that what you're saying? Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. So that's one idea. We'll look at that. That's one key idea. There's another idea white has. h4 is a good idea because black is completely paralyzed and he can't really stop h4, h5, h6. If he allows it, obviously he gets mated. So if the pawn gets all the way to h6, queen g7 is game over. Okay, but what if black will play h4 and then black plays h5? Very weakening, but he can't really do anything else. So how would you respond to that? I'll put on the board. I think that's what he played, actually. I think he played h4. Yeah, so h4 was played. Okay, so h4 is correct. So now, yeah, how do you continue after h5? The inclusion of h4 and h5 is actually really important because white's plan without these two moves is a little bit weaker. So white is basically like two ways to win. One is very simple and very nice. The other one is faster, but like very hard to calculate. Rook g4. Rook g4, very brave. So, okay, now rook g4. Because rook g4, I'm going to choose which rook I want to take. I can take the d7 rook or I can take the g4 rook. Yeah, so again, black is paralyzed. He's doomed to moving his rooks or the king or the bishop to a8, right? If he does anything else, then knight to g5 is game over. Okay, so rook f4, queen f7. The problem with moving the rook this way right away, right? You can't move your rook. You can't move this rook this way. Like as soon as that happens, this is going to, you have no more threats. So king to h2. What's your plan with king to h2? What are you trying to do with that? He can go to f8. Not sure what line you're talking about there. King h2, king h3, king g3, king f4. Oh yeah, okay. Well, good job. You guys figured it out. That's correct. So yeah, black is so paralyzed. You can't do anything at all. That white is completely free to just march the king up the board. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, black literally can't do anything. So king h2 was played. So actually, like, there's a funny story how it happened. So in the tournament situation, I think Short, who was white, he had a not like a pretty bad score. I think it was like 2 out of 5 or something. And he's playing all GM, so he's playing good players, but he still had a bad score. I think the night before this game, he went like to the bar and he was really depressed. And then his opponent came up to him and he's like, "Oh, we're playing tomorrow." And he said, "Okay, well, that's cool, I guess." And they played the game. And then Short was, even though he's completely winning here, Short was still kind of upset about his tournament situation, so he didn't really care. So he played king h2 just because he couldn't think of anything else. He didn't see his plan yet, and then black didn't see either. So he just played, rook to c8. He didn't see anything coming at all. So we'll get back to the best line in a second, but yeah, both players were completely unaware what was going on. And then white was like, "Okay, you know what? I still know what I'm doing. I might as well play king g3." And then at this point, black saw what white was doing before white saw what I was doing. So like black already saw this like king f4, king g5, king h6, but Short didn't see it yet. So he's moving his king around for no reason because he didn't know what's going on. He's just kind of, unhappy and just making random moves. But now black sees it, and now he's kind of worried. But he realizes that this is actually a pretty big mistake because bishop there is the best move, kicking out the rook, and that's what he should have played. but he didn't see it yet. So king h2, rook c8, king g3, rook to e8. And now short finally sees like, okay, king f4, wait a minute. I have this, like, how does he stop it? So yeah, after this, black's thought, okay, wait a minute, I need bishop c8. So he goes back, rook there, king f4, and now bishop c8. But now it's too late, because now white sees it too, and now king g5 takes, well, he resigned here, I think. Because if you take king h6, then yeah, that's it, right? No way to stop queen g7. And if you play king h7 yourself, then, you know, this loses. So yeah, pretty funny how white didn't even see his own idea until, like, he played this move out of, you know, he just played it randomly, like it was an accident. But okay. So after king h2, black should have played bishop to c8 because he needs to kick this guy out of there, right? He doesn't want to trade any pieces off, but okay. Here is kind of the harder question. So how does white continue now? The same idea, well, it might be too slow now, so you might need to come up with something else for white to win. But notice that now the bishop is off the diagonal, so you have some new ideas. So white to play and try to win now. Rook g4. Okay, rook g4, what if queen takes? D7. Queen takes d7. Okay, so what if I just bite the bullet and take the rook on g4? Like rook g4, h takes g4. Then what are you going to do? h5, okay. And if I take on h5? Knight g5. And then I take the rook on d7. Yeah, queen g5 is probably stronger. I think you get a draw. Actually, no. No, queen g5, you actually win. Okay, so what he's saying is rook g4 takes. So okay, the best move is queen takes or the best move is just taking here, and like white is nothing because the rook g4. His idea was this, but now I can just defend. So that's the best move. But I'm saying, okay, what if I just, you know, I dare you to try to mate me and do this. Okay, he wants to play h5 and h6 next and mate black, so we can't take the rook now. This is forced. But now I have queen g5, king there. First, I get rid of all the pawns. So once I get rid of all the pawns, I can do this. At the end, rook d4. And this is mate. Right? White did the queen dance to make sure there are no more pawns in the way. So finally, we can just mate black on the h file. So yeah, that's a nice idea. I think it works. The problem is rook to g4. You have no threat because I'll just take here, and now, you know, rook to g4 is kind of like, why did you do that, right? Okay, rook to g5, but again, like this stuff is probably way too slow. You have a lot of time, but when you sack material, the time isn't like, the time starts running out, right? So you got to be careful how you go about it. So rook to g4 taking has the right idea. It has the right idea, but rook to g4 is not the best move because I don't need to take your rook on g4. So pawn to g4, okay. So what if I take the pawn on g4? Rook g4, and somehow it's an improvement. Queen takes d7. I think it like barely doesn't work because now I'll play like queen e7, and then remember I'm up a rook. So if I'm up a rook, I can sack my queen for the other rook, and like I'll be safe. So okay, I'll wait for some other people to see what they think as well before I jump into g4. I'll wait about 2 more minutes. So is anyone still okay? So g4. Anyone else think g4 is correct? Knight g5. Okay, so someone says g4. So knight g5, then g4, knight g5 to e4. Okay. Okay, so we'll look at knight g5 first. Okay, so knight g5. What's a threat for knight g5? So how does knight g5 threaten g4? Because is there a problem with g4 right now before the knight goes to g5? Yeah, so if you want to play g4, you don't need knight g5, right? The point of knight g5 is some other idea, right? Oops. So if we try the same idea, king g3, it doesn't work because now that the rook on g7 is gone, there's nothing attacking a7 now, right? So black will just play king a7. Well, I'll let you play king g5 first, and then I'll play king a7 because I don't want to run into knight g5. But yeah, so now I'll play like bishop c8, put the bishop back here, bring the queen out, slowly I'll unravel. The moment you do this, I'll play king a7, and before we had a rook here to take on f7, now that's not the case anymore. So that doesn't work. Okay. So hg4 would attack the knight, but you can do something about it. So like after g4 takes, I think g4 is correct, by the way, because, yeah, I think g4 should be correct. Yeah, the whole point is that if you take, right, now you don't want to play knight g5 because, yeah, g4 had a point. Remember when we played rook g4, we saw like this line with h5. It's kind of the same thing here. Actually, it might not be the same thing because black has one other idea. So anyway, so like knight g5, I think someone said like knight g5 to e4. This is too slow because once I take here, like you can try knight to e4 now, and you're down a rook, and a rook is like a lot of material, so it doesn't really. Oh, if you can't take here now because the rook is gone, so this won't work. Right, you can try to sack, but like I have way too much stuff to defend with. Yeah, so knight to e4. Yeah, the stuff is just way too slow because I can just go back and it's not so clear how you really do anything. Actually, I should go here. Maybe there should be 10 moves that win. Like, yeah, it just shouldn't work for some reason. Like, I can always sack the exchange back if I need to. Okay, so oh, you mean knight g5 takes rook f4? But even this, like, it's just too slow. I'll play like queen c5. Do I even need to? Okay, this is kind of annoying actually. Maybe this might work. I don't know. I don't want to turn the engine on, but no, but then queen 6 and 7, and then white has a draw at the least, right? Okay, there's some defense I'm not seeing, but I'm sure the computer like will see something. Yeah, a draw is better, but I think white might just win because like if this takes, like I think white is just winning here, not even a draw. The bishop is so bad that like rook f7 is just gonna be mate next. Right. Okay. I don't know why it's not working, but I just know it's not working. So yeah. Oh, always at the very least, like at the very, very least, if things always get bad enough, I always have this. This probably is not the best move, not even close, but if I need to, like here, white is probably gonna win, actually maybe not even, because let's say you trade that out for the rook. I'm still left with the rook and a bishop versus a very bad pawn structure, right? Like it takes you way longer to win, right? So even if it does win, which I'm like sure it doesn't, it takes way longer than what the game continuation is. Okay, so we'll look at knight g5 one last time, then we'll go on to the actual solution. So, okay, yeah, rook f4 takes. So rook g8, like you are pinning to mate, but this is just mate at 1 first, right? So almost, but not quite. Okay. So anyway, back to the solution. So oops. G4 is correct. So okay, if we take the rook first of all, then I think just taking here. And next move is just 8-6, right? The queen is too far to get back in time to stop 8-6, so black has to take. And now with this nice open file against the king, I think rook g1 is the easiest way to win. Or rook g1, and that should be game over, right? I don't see any way for black to stop it. So yeah, that should win. Yeah, so I think after the puzzle, we're gonna go to like some studies and then we'll stop there. Okay, so takes. Yeah, this is pretty much over. So black has to take the pawn on g4, and you don't want to do rook takes g4 because then we lose the rook. And this at the most, actually no, probably queen takes. h5, and I think black defends here. Oh, never mind, 8-6. Black doesn't defend here, never mind. Queen e7. Okay, black does defend here. Yeah, because this is too slow, because then queen e7 comes in. Yeah, black defends this after queen e7. If we ever get queen e7, then it's just an easy way to defend. Okay. h5 through hg4. Yeah, so here, actually, maybe knight g5 might be correct, because after rook g1, queen g4. Oh, okay, so what he's saying is this. g4, rook takes here. So rook d1, queen f3. You can do queen f3, but then I'll just take the queen first. And now you sack your queen, and like you'll just get mated this way, right? I take the queen first, and then that's over. So anyway, g4, pawn takes. Okay, so here I have to worry about if h5. Now the queen takes f3, right? If we play h6, then we lose the queen, and that's not good. f5, I have rook g1, king f7, queen h5, and that's mates. Guys, calm down in the chat, okay? Okay, so g4, pawn takes. Yeah, so h5, queen f3, and I think white loses because the queen gets back in time and things, black managed to defend. So yeah, so after hg4, I think knight g5 is the easiest way to win. Okay, knight g5, threatening rook f7, so black has to take. h5, threatening h6, h7, or queen g7, so black has to take. Queen h6, and now black is finally mated, I think, right? Okay, go. You can try all the spy checks you want. After take all your pieces, you'll get mated. Yeah, so g4, h5, or no, g4, knight g5, h5, right? And black cannot stop the mate. Okay, so people who are saying knight g5, maybe it does work. Maybe. Actually, I don't know. Because I don't need to take now. So, like, knight g5 makes sense, but it makes more sense to play g4 first, force him to take, and then play knight g5, because you already made him commit, right? You have less lines to worry about in your head, so it's better to do it this way. Okay, so that's the game. Any questions? If not, we'll go to the first puzzle. Oh, rook f4? Okay, I'll go back quickly. Rook f4, I'll just take the rook, and then I've sacked the queen for 2 rooks and a bishop, and black should defend. Oh yeah, queen h3 is even better. Never mind. Yeah, so Either way, black can defend pretty easily. Okay. So I'll do the first puzzle. Oops. Just give me a second, guys. And chess space froze. So I'll have to take a second to find the puzzle. Okay, I am going to share screens now. Okay, this one is white to move. So I'm not going to tell you if it's white to move to win, draw, or lose. I don't know why it'd be white to lose, but yeah. Take 5 minutes or so and try to think about what's going on. Also, black's pawn is going this way, so black is about to promote, so keep that in mind. And white's about to promote. These are studies, they're not like typical chess problems, so you might have to think outside the box. I'm not going to talk about it until about 3 or 4 minutes from now because I want everyone to try it on their own first before I give hints. Usually the first step in these kind of puzzles is trying to figure out is white trying to win or white trying to draw or lose. But it's usually the first two. So decide which one of those white is trying to get first. Then the puzzle becomes easier. Okay. So either there's some people not using the chat because there's like 5 or 6 people in the chat and there's more people actually here. So I don't know if everyone else is ready. If you guys aren't ready for me to go on, then just let me know. Otherwise, I'll go over it in like 10 seconds. Okay, so yeah, I think that's enough time. Yeah, this one's not so bad, right? Obviously, white would like to win if we could like somehow block the bishop from the promotion square, like put the knight in the way to one of these squares, but it's not really possible, right? So the bishop will always control f8, so white can't really win. So white is fighting for a draw because black is going to queen first. So yeah, the correct move is knight t5. If this knight was defended somehow and you could block promotion, it would make sense, but black just takes and there's nothing there. So yeah, knight t5 is correct. We're defending knight to d3, and if we play knight to d3, it's going to be a draw because then we can just take the new queen and yeah, that'll be an easy draw. So queening is forced, and now you have the nice idea to get a draw with making a queen. There's no other solution because like if you don't give a check, then I'll give a check and win all your pieces. So you have to think fast. Takes, and now you have a nice perpetual slash stalemate because the king can never escape these checks. So these checks go on forever. And yeah, so finally when black takes, we have a stalemate, right? All these squares are covered by the queen, the bishop covers these squares, and the pawn covers this square. So yeah, okay. That one was not too bad, but in a game you would almost never see this, right? Like these kind of situations are really, really rare. That's why studies are unique because they take kind of like this unexpected stalemate element, right? So I'm going to open up a new board now. Okay, can you guys see the new one? This one is again white to move. Can you guys confirm in the chat if you can see? Okay, let me just share screens again. Okay, new board. So it's white's turn. So white to win, move, or white to win, white to draw, white to lose. Hopefully you don't think it's white to lose because white's up a pawn. So you guys about 5 minutes on this one. You don't need to spam, I can see it. So again, figure out, do I try to win, draw, lose? The material situation should give you a big hint what white is trying to play for. This puzzle looks deceptively simple, but you have to see why the obvious move doesn't work. If it's black's move, go rook a1. Yeah, that's if it was black's move, then rook a1 would be the correct drawing idea. I guess you know field or ending, so that's good. Okay, anyone need more time? I think I'm ready to take it off. Everyone good? Okay, yeah. So the obvious move is rook a7. Skewering the rook, but black has this tricky idea, king e6, right? And now if you take, this is a kind of embarrassing stalemate. So you don't make any progress with rook e7. And if you just move the king up, well, then the situation changes. And if you study rook endings, you'll know that after rook a1 or rook a2, the correct idea to draw is to bring the, well, I guess here, no. Here, rook a5 first, because you want the king off the fifth rank and then rook a1. And the correct idea is to just keep giving checks along the back rank until white gets too close. If you give a check, black will just go back and forth. And yeah, so you have to be quick. Otherwise, black will go into a typical drawn ending called the Philidor rook ending. So you have to be quick. So e6 is correct. And now you have to realize where, typically if the rook wasn't on a7, then e6 would be a pretty bad idea because you're advancing the pawn too far and you're going to lose the pawn because white's king won't be able to defend it. So black can go back or forward. If he goes back, then, this is a pretty easy win. Check, takes, check. And then we just make a queen. So he has to go forward to defend the pawn. And now we use the fact that the skewer is still here with e7. And now this is just a real skewer because now the pawn on e5 is gone and no stalemate tricks. So e7 is correct. And here's the key idea. Once you get here, some people make the mistake of playing rook here and then queen there, but this actually you don't go there, that loses. You play rook a8 now. Actually, wait, no, that still loses. Rook a1, yeah. And now black draws because now the king goes here and it's a pretty easy draw. Black gives checks forever. So, but the correct solution is correct idea is queen, and then now we win the rook. And this is a pretty easy way to end the game. Okay, so this one was a little bit trickier, but once you see the skewer idea and like how you need to get rid of the pawn, it becomes pretty apparent, right? Okay, we'll do one more. So let me just find the other one. Okay. So this one's different. So white to move. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, does anyone need more time? Okay, I'm gonna take it up. So yeah, so this one's a weird one, right? Whenever there's like a bunch of pieces on the board, it usually means white's trying to win because we're up at bishop for like rook, knight, and bishop versus the queen is the rook, knight, and bishop is worth more. We're gonna lose the bishop probably or one of the pieces. So, but even then, like these positions that look really funny, they're usually like someone's gonna win. So okay, you notice the king and the queen are in a pretty funny position, right? Like the knight has some weird forks like everywhere you go. But if the queen gets out of the box, like if we can take the bishop with check and then play queen h1, queen b1, like stuff like this, then black can make a draw pretty easily with perpetual. So white has to be kind of fast. So the intuition behind, like, I don't know, studies are tricky because like to find the first move, it's usually you just kind of check, like look at all the forcing moves and just look at what happens, right? So rook c6 is the first move. It's kind of insane because like, you might be thinking, how is it even possible to come up with that? And it kind of just happens by practicing doing studies or seeing something similar. Because like any other move, like rook to a6, then we have perpetuals like this, and black draws pretty easily. Studies are usually forcing moves. So rook e6 is very forcing because black has basically two options. He can take with the king or with the pawn, and taking with the pawn is pretty easy to see why it doesn't work. We lose the queen. So yeah, rook e6. You can't go in with the king because then you'll lose by either knight d7 or knight f7. So king takes his force. And here is kind of the the first place where you have to realize what to do. So someone said bishop f5. When I was doing the puzzle the first time too, I thought that too, but after king e7, there's nothing here, right? No more checks, and you sack the rook for pretty much no reason. So d5 is correct. You want to force the king on a square where he's going to get caught in a fork. King d6 runs into this, so king d7, d6. Okay, so here, if black plays king e8, someone said the correct line, d7, king e7. If you go king e8, then this loses. And the nice move is d8. And now, no matter which way you take, you run into a fork. Queen takes knight d6, and that's game over. You're going to lose the queen. King takes knight f7, that's also game over. So yeah, that's the nice solution. Okay, but what if black goes king f8? No one suggested a line after this. So what should white play here? Oh, be careful. This is check now. So bishop g6, I mean, I'm not going to take. I'll play queen h1 first. And then I'll play queen h1. And then, yeah. But g6 is correct. Yes, so king f8 and now g6. Now the queen is literally trapped and there's no way she can go. Like, this, then I think knight f7 wins, right? And funny way to lose the queen. And you can't take because then knight g6 loses the queen. So yeah, here black just loses. If you go f5 takes, like, we win the same way. d7, knight c6. So the key idea is g6. Okay, yeah, so that's all the puzzles. And I guess that completes the class for today. Does anyone have any questions about anything? If not, then we'll call it a day. That's pretty much all I had planned for today.
Okay, all right, thank you. Advait, that was awesome. All right, thank you everyone for coming. So we're gonna be opening registration later, so we'll let you know the details. Okay.
All right.
All right, thank you. Have a good weekend. Stay safe, everyone.
All right. Yeah. Take care.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.